The race to see who will lead the Disney company may be coming to a close, folks. Who will take the big chair in the shower office from Bob Iger? Probably no one in the grand scheme of things. But it looks like we are going to get an answer soon as to who will at least be the next placeholder until Bob Iger comes back. Let's talk about it today here on That Park Place. Disney expected to announce new CEO next month as succession pressure builds. This comes from That Park Place. I'm the author on this one. Let's see what we're saying here. The search for a new Disney CEO appears to be nearing its conclusion. According to a recent report from the Los Angeles Times, the Walt Disney Company is expected to formally announce its next chief executive as early as next month. February, of course, February 2026, signaling the beginning of the end of Bob Iger's returned stint and the supposed start of Disney's next corporate chapter. The announcement would represent one of the most consequential leadership transitions in Disney's modern history, coming after years of internal instability, strategic reversals, and mounting pressure from both Wall Street and longtime fans. Now, as we all know, Bob Iger stepped back into that CEO role in late 2022 after Bob Chapek's abrupt exit. That's a polite way of saying got thrown out on his keister in the middle of the night while he was at an Elton John concert. A move framed as an emergency stabilization effort rather than a long-term solution. Now, Iger himself has repeatedly framed his return as temporary, with the explicit goal of restoring confidence, resetting internal leadership, and preparing a successor capable of navigating Disney's increasingly complex business model. That is at least the official rhetoric, where critics, however, have long argued that the return looked less like a reluctant rescue mission and more like an audacious corporate power grab. In this view, Bob Chapek was effectively positioned to absorb the fallout from a series of deeply unpopular decisions that Iger did little to reverse once back in control, clearing the path for Iger to reassert authority after his supposed retirement. Now, who's in line here? Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks and Experiences, aka the only profitable sector of this company, often cited as the favorite in Wall Street circles. And D'Amaro oversees Disney Parks, Resorts, Cruise Lines, and has been associated with the company's massive $60 billion parks expansion initiative. Then you have Dana Walden, who is the woke Hollywood choice. She leads Disney's television and streaming operations, and of course, has a close personal relationship with former Vice President Kamala Harris, which is seen by many as a vulnerability in the Trump era. Other names being tossed around, but are in no way, shape, or form in the mix, are Alan Bergman and Jimmy Pitaro. Guys, it's got to be Josh D'Amaro, right, Vash?
I would think so. I think he has some of the most operational experience at the Walt Disney Company. I believe, 27 years, if I recall correctly, for Josh D'Amaro. He's been there. He kind of understands what it has looked like, what it should look like, and so forth. Remember, Dana Walden was a late acquisition, only coming in as part of that Fox acquisition back in 2019 is when that was that the ink was filed. Dried on that deal officially. So she's pretty late to the game, although she does control a lot of those Hollywood and streaming assets there, and she's had relationships with producers and TV personalities and so forth. So she definitely knows her way around that side of the business. There's no question about that. Josh D'Amaro is kind of the long-term veteran there, and it seems to be the play that they're going with. Mm-hmm. What's very interesting about Josh D'Amaro and them kind of setting him up to be this next guy is, well, it's a very transformative time in the industry right now. And obviously, Disney really wants to go ahead and retain its position as one of the top leading entertainment brands and companies all over the world. And well, Hollywood itself is going through, like I said, so much transformation in that it's, pivoting to streaming and it's getting out maybe of Hollywood. It's setting up in different regions of the world. They're cutting back on content. You have acquisitions taking place, like Netflix, for example, maybe acquiring Warner Brothers and so forth. So it's kind of like the next CEO will have to chart out the course for what Hollywood looks like in 10 years, where Disney's position, it will take in that whole, tangled web there, and how they actually navigate to get there. And I don't know if Josh D'Amaro is the guy for that, but he is being set up. And you set up brilliantly, Marvin, that it looks like the announcement will take place next month. And really the only setting I can really see them actually pitching this is really February 2nd, Monday. That's when the next earnings call is. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Vash. I think that it's going to coincide with the earnings call. I think it might be the night before. It might be February 1st, because even though it's a Sunday, because they always try to do something that's going to boost the stock price up right before the earnings call so that Bob Iger can look. So now If it's Diamaro, I think they do that because he is the Wall Street choice. I think if it's
Right.
Walden, they don't do it. And if it's a co-CEO situation, then I don't know, maybe.
They might do it.
I think Wall Street might see a co-CEO situation as so. If they do a co-CEO situation, the thing is, when you have that, there's always one that's like the real CEO. And like, look at Netflix. You have co-CEOs there. You have Ted Sarandos and you have Greg Peters. Ted Sarandos is 100% the CEO of Netflix. Like, he's the boss. Like, he's the one everyone quotes.
Yeah.
Who do you think in that situation, a Diamaro, Dana Walden joint CEO, who's the real CEO at that point?
That's a really interesting question, because it's like if Dana Walden and Josh D'Amaro is selected, in that you would think that maybe Josh D'Amaro be the guy in front while Dana Walden be the gal behind. But here's the thing: if she's the one that's been the deal maker in the past, if she's the one dealing with talent and so forth, and producers and directors and everybody within Hollywood, then it's kind of like, doesn't she become the de facto face of the company at that point? At least within Hollywood intelligentsia and everywhere else, they'll treat her as such. So I think she would be
on that. If you have, let's say we default to a scenario where Dana Walden is the Hollywood deal maker, Josh D'Amaro is overseeing parks and experiences, and Bob Iger is serving in an advisory role, then literally nothing has changed.
Right, exactly.
Decision-making situation. Josh D'Amaro is doing the parks, Dana Walden is doing entertainment, and nothing changes.
Well, and that's kind of what's being set up here. Erica, please go ahead. I want to go ahead and hear our point here.
I was going to say that's if they know that there's boundaries and it's clear what their duties are. Otherwise, if you just slap a general title, CEO, co-CEO, I think between the two of them, it's going to be a constant like contest, this constant competition, and you could be looking at them not getting along, and a lot of friction, between the two of them. Mm-hmm. So they have to have defined roles to where they stay in their lanes. But yeah, I don't see it changing.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no question, because if one encroaches on the other's territory and so forth, well, that could be an issue when it comes to the workplace environment and so forth throughout the line, right? And that might be a caustic place to work if you're in Burbank, for example. But I think this is so interesting, because the reporting that Disney is expecting to make an announcement on the next CEO comes from an LA Times report, and it basically, it goes hard in the paint on James Gordon, specifically building him up, and he's the guy to handle this transition and so forth, and they lay out a scenario in which they want to maintain talent, they want to maintain the status quo of whatever actually ends up happening. They don't want voids where maybe Alan Bergman or Jimmy Pitaro or even Dana Walden or maybe even Josh D'Amaro leave if one of those is selected, right? And that's the weird thing about this whole transition. They've been very open about, hey, we're taking executives aside and saying, we want to go ahead and retain you for big long-term contracts, and we want to have you for the next probably 3, 5, maybe even 10 years, in a very similar fashion that James Gordon actually did back when he was trying to transition Morgan Stanley. He took people aside and said, hey, we're going to give you $20 million to stay. Right. What's weird about that, though, is that shouldn't the CEO be making these decisions? I mean, the new CEO, right? Why would you make all of these decisions and then saddle him with this corporate structure that he's kind of inheriting? I would expect, maybe a head coach example for the NFL, right? The head coach comes in, he makes the drafting decisions, he makes the personnel choices, he does all of that. Instead, like Dave Filoni, for example, taking over for Kathleen Kennedy, that's a decision that maybe Josh or Dana should have made, but they're not. They're making those decisions, all of them pretty much, before he even takes the seat. And that, to me, kind of takes the power of what the CEO position has historically been.
I agree. MJ, I don't think there's a way that Josh D'Amaro is not the Disney CEO, but I think the more likely scenario is the co-CEO situation with Dana Walden, because I think not only does Bob Iger love Dana Walden and want Dana Walden, woke Hollywood wants Dana Walden, and I think Disney really wants the first female CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Do you agree that do you think we're going to see a co-CEO situation, and do you think that can work the way it did with, let's say, a Walt and a Roy?
You make a good point. Yeah, like Walt and Roy, hand in hand. I can see why they're pushing her to sit next to him on this. I really think, as much as we don't want it, D'Amaro is going to fill the seat, and Dana's going to be around. She's going to be either his right hand or some other title. But we have a little request from one of our superstars, Ken Reinhard. I promised him I would do a jingle. I would sing the song he put.
Yep, we can take care of that in the between. We're focused on we got to focus on the story right now. But yes, I 100% agree with you on that. I think that Josh D'Amaro is the Wall Street choice. He's the logical choice. But I really don't think, Vash, that they're going to be able to resist that first female CEO moniker.
Well, Bob Iger for sure, right? That's going to be the ultimate feather in his cap. Oh, I was able to hand it off successfully to the first female CEO for this company in over 100 years and so forth. That's a great way to end his legacy. He also lives, MJ, with Dana Walden, basically in Brentwood, not in the same house, but same neighborhood, right? They took walks together while they were figuring out how to upend Chapek and so forth. We remember all that kind of thing. So he would love to hand it off to somebody who he would really have a direct ear in, right? And could really maybe shape the company from the back end, even if he's not directly involved. So I could see the potential in that, and I think that's why Bob Iger bristled when somebody said, "Oh, Josh is going to make the next great CEO," and he's like, "Whoa, that's not decided yet." So I think it's very, very interesting here. The other things playing out too, I just want to bring up very, very fast, is that remember that's this ESPN NFL kind of. It's not really a merger, but this kind of deal that's going to be between them, right? That's got some regulatory issues that they'll have to overcome, and that's going to be on the CEO's plate right there. So the next CEO will have to navigate those legal waters and regulatory hurdles. You're also going to have to fulfill what your predecessor has, like I was saying before, saddled you with, and navigate those waters successfully. So there's a lot riding on the CEO ship. Even if some of those decisions have already been made.
Well, guys, we may just be a few weeks away from finding out who will be the next big cheese of the House of Mouse.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.